Town Band Banter with Doc and Dave. Every week, two longtime friends and colleagues in the world of music, David Price and Donald Doc Smith, get together to discuss the triumphs as well as the twists and turns of lifelong learning for the dedicated members of thousands of civilian community music ensembles of every shape and size. Your comments and suggestions are always welcomed through email as info@townbandbanter.com, Facebook, Town Band Banter, and Instagram, #TownBandBanter. And now for our hosts, Doc and Dave.
All right, Dave, here we go. Episode 6, Season 2. And we're here at fabulous Lehman College in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, this is great. So thank you very much. This is all put together by my good friend, Karl Watson. And we'll tell you that relationship a little bit later. And we're also welcoming Alan Holander, who's a professor here and director of the community band, several community bands. So we'll get into all of that as we go. So let me get back into, like, Karl. I met him at Alumni Band 30 years ago, was the first alumni band at University of Rhode Island. As I arrived at universities and tried to rebuild programs, one of the first things I did was formed an alumni band. And Karl came to that first one, and we've been friends ever since. And
he was the only one.
I wasn't the only one.
No.
But there weren't very many. But it's been building even since Don left the University of Rhode Island. The alumni band has been slowly building, and I'm glad to still be a part of it. And I'm glad to still be friends with Dr. Donald Smith over here.
That's great. So, and Karl plays a lot of different instruments, so we'll get into all of that. And Alan has a wonderful background too. So I wonder if, just for our listeners, it'd be a good idea to start with just maybe a thumbnail sketch of what got you to here. You know, like how do you do a long life in a short period of time? But on the music, you know, how did you get to this community band thing all the way through, maybe starting back at school? What did you start with? And I think both of you have interesting stories. So, Alan, when do you start with that?
Okay, started to play the oboe when I was 12 years old, and I was fortunate I had a really excellent teacher from the Juilliard to start out. And I played in my high school band and the Yonkers All-City Band, and won a couple of awards, and studied, as I said, with a lady from Juilliard. And my first professional gig when I was 16 years old was playing in the Yonkers Pops Band, which at that time was an all-professional band, and I played second oboe in that. That was the first band I played in that was outside of school. Then I played in the Westchester Symphony and the Yonkers Philharmonic and on. And I went and studied oboe in college, and my college oboe professor was different from my first one, and he was friendly with the gentleman who produced my oboe, who manufactured it, Gourdet oboes. And when he became ill, I sort of became his feet and hands. He had had a bad stroke. So I sort of learned how to make oboes by watching him, and I knew that he really liked me when he didn't curse at me a lot. Really from the old school. Well, unfortunately, he passed away right after I graduated college, and I purchased his oboe business and managed to start making oboes. And I should say, one of my first gigs in an orchestra was sitting next to Alfred Laubin, who was a very famous oboe player, and I learned quite a bit from him. And I continued to play with him while I was out of school, and he sort of helped me along with the oboe manufacture. But as things would have it, computers came in, and they changed our life in many ways, and they changed manufacturing. So I continued to teach music as a band director, and I became a high school band director, and I realized that really donating my time to making instruments would change radically, because things I did with a lathe and a drill press were not done by computer in 1/10 the time. So continued to teach privately and play professionally, and played in many different community bands and orchestras. Community bands I played in were the Westchester Philharmonic, Yonkers Philharmonic. I played in the Long Island Pops Band, which was an all-professional band. So I've had a lot of experiences with band, and really helped me understand how to be a professional and to watch other professionals and non-professionals, both on and off the podium. So that really study was very formative for me.
Cool. Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah,
First, no, your first high school job, that wasn't Edgemont. That's how
No.
I got to know, because when I got to know Karl, we were playing the Edgemont Festival Overture, and I took that on a European concert tour. That
Did
people
you really?
loved it. Yeah, they loved that
great
piece.
piece.
And they
So-
said, wow, I know the guy from there. And was that commissioned while you were there?
Yeah, that was
Oh, wow.
commissioned. I was friendly with Carl Stroman, who wrote the piece.
Right.
And he worked closely with me. I was director of music and the band director at Edgemont at that time. And the first concert actually was held in the school gymnasium, and we had over 300 kids playing in that concert.
Wow.
And Edgemont Overture was written with that in mind. It was really a grade 5 piece, but the lower parts were designed so that 5th and 6th graders could play it. So that was really quite a lot of fun, and I'm glad to hear that.
It was great writing, and that's why I
It's
used
great.
it, because I had a range of skill levels on the tour.
Yeah.
So then one other thing, Yonkers Philharmonic and Westchester Philharmonic, are they orchestras or bands?
Those were orchestras,
Okay,
and
yeah.
what happened was, when I was in the Westchester Philharmonic, I met Jerome Sala, who
Right.
was actually my predecessor here at Lehman as a band director.
Right.
So I met him and played in another concert band I didn't mention, which was, I know it played at a local park. I don't remember what the name of it was. Do you remember what it was? The one at Lions Park?
Oh.
Don't-
Was that the Westchester Pops? Was it?
Might have been.
Might have been, yeah.
Might have been. At any rate, Jerry was a clarinet player, and I played in woodwind quintets with him for many years. And I got to watch him conduct a bunch of bands, as well as some other local people. And there's something about community bands that is different than being in a college or a school band.
Right.
Because the range of people is very wide, and the talent level can be very wide. You really have to understand who you're working with and how to get them to produce musically.
And that's something we're going to dig into a little bit deeper as we go. You know, that whole, because this is the first episode we're doing with a college community band, which I grew up playing in. You know, when I was before I entered college, and that probably is why I went to that college, because I was so comfortable there. But why don't we get to Karl? You know, like you play so many instruments and so many different kind of musical styles. It blows my mind. So just try
Sure.
to wrap that up for us.
Yeah, sure. So I started instrumental music at the age of 6 playing violin. And after several years, I got to middle school where there was no string program. So we decided that I would play clarinet. And so I took up the clarinet.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. No.
It was smart. He only had one reed to worry about. as a
Yeah, right, I only had one, yeah.
Go ahead.
so I played in the school band, and in the summertime I did a summer music camp at the Hoff-Barthelson School, which is a private music school in the area. And as I got older, I became a teacher assistant, and then I became a quasi-teacher myself at that camp. And at some point, one band director or another said, gee, I wish we had a bass clarinet. And I said, oh, I'll do it. So, 9th grade, I started playing bass clarinet.
Right.
And then my school band director said, you know, we've got an empty seat in the jazz band for a tenor sax. I said, I'll do it. So, and then one summer the summer band director said, gee, I have enough altos and tenors. We don't have a bari sax. I'll do it. So I started one instrument after another just because I was interested and there was a need for it.
It's really funny because, Alan, you probably didn't have anyone saying, do you want to play something other than the oboe? Because you don't do that with oboe. There are some instruments I don't have any recruiting strategies for whatsoever. We're short right now, trumpet and clarinet in the Jamestown band,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I'm thinking, I've never had to recruit them. I don't know what to do. Or go on, I'm sorry.
So, no problem. So I graduated high school. I went to the University of Rhode Island, and I was in the marching band, playing tenor sax. I also played in the jazz band. I played in the wind ensemble and the concert band. I played in maybe 10 different ensembles at the university, and just added additional instruments. And
I play orchestra there too.
I played. Yes, I
You
played
violin too.
No, I didn't. I played clarinet, bass clarinet in the
Oh,
orchestra.
okay.
Just briefly, and I also played contrabass clarinet in the wind ensemble.
Right.
So that was the latest addition, was the contrabass clarinet. So anyhow, after graduating, I came back to New York. I did my usual summer program, and the summer band director, I said to the summer band director, and at that point, I was not only a member of the summer band, that's the Westchester band, I was also the band manager, and I said to him, well, I've graduated now, and I don't really have anything to do musically after the summer season was over. Is there anything in the area that I could participate in? And he said, in fact, there is. There is a college and community concert band at Lehman College. So, and I knew the director, Jerry Sala at the time, Jerome Sala, who had been a teacher in the district that I grew up in, although I never had him as a teacher. But so one thing led to another, and I joined the Lehman Community Band, and Jerry Sala at the time was also the conductor of the Yonkers Philharmonic, and he knew that I played violin, so he invited me. And after a little bit of arm twisting, I said yes. And, well, I had sort of...
It didn't sound like there was much arm twisting up until this point.
No. No, well, I had sort of taken a hiatus from the violin,
Right.
and so I was hesitant to get back, and it didn't take much arm twisting, and so I'm very glad that I did return to the violin. Anyway, and I play in a lot of different groups now, and one has come after another just by networking, talking with fellow musicians, just being out there and available. Hey, we need somebody for this. Hey, we need somebody for that. Yeah, yes, I'm interested. Sure, I'll do it. And so I play with the Yonkers Philharmonic and the Yonkers Concert Band, which is itself on a bit of a hiatus, but the Yonkers Military Band, which is a marching band. Plus we have the Westchester Band, of which Joe Albright was the director, and Alan Holander is now the director. And that is a summer-only pops-type band.
Where do you perform?
For which I'm also the band manager still, to this day.
We perform in a park in Scarsdale, funded by the
Outdoors.
city.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
outdoors. And so I play a lot of different groups, and I play with the Library Jazz Band, which there will be an episode upcoming
Yes.
on the Library Jazz Band.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great
Um,
one. Thanks for the tease.
Yeah, sure. And a little behind the scenes, we actually recorded that episode first and this one afterwards. So if things
No one
seem a
will
little-
ever know
No
that.
one will ever. Shh. So just by networking and being available and saying yes, I've now played with a whole bunch of different groups. In fact, my funk band has a gig tonight. After we finish recording, I'm going to head up there.
You have that Latin connection.
And yes, and we have the Bronx Connection Latin Jazz Big Band.
Right. With the name Watson, obviously that fits.
Well, but again, I said yes when the director asked
Right.
me to be in it, and that is a professional only band, and I'm honored to be a member of that band, and we have recorded to date 3 albums. And those are my first 3 professional albums as a musician are with that band.
But none of that pays the rent. What pays the rent is your job here.
What pays the rent, yes, is my job here at Lehman College, where I have a behind-the-scenes, part administrative, part technical job in the music department. And I want to say for anyone who may not be familiar with Lehman College, we were talking about this another behind the scenes. This isn't the first time we've actually all talked to each other. So if you look at music from a professional or avocational, pedagogical, sociocultural aspect, any way you want to look at it, and drew a Venn diagram of all of the above, Lehman College would be right in the middle. And it is an honor and a pleasure to have been employed by Lehman College since years ago, and it's really a gem here in the Bronx as a branch of City University.
Right.
Nice.
You have notable faculty members, a particular composition.
John Corleone.
John Corleone
Yeah.
is our recently retired.
Oh, I didn't know he retired.
Just recently.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard of him, where
Yes.
where have you been?
That's a big part of the bold print of the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Right there. That's
Right.
for sure. Well, I want to get back. Our whole purpose is about community bands, and fascination with this. What I grew up in was the college and community band, and all the aspects of building that, maintaining that, and keeping that going, and how like the community members give you the students come and go. but the community members tend to stay, and all of that dynamic, and also maybe without getting too long into it, but you could choose which one you go after first. Repertoire selection too.
Well, I'll start with the community band members.
Yeah.
I have quite a lot of people who've been in the band 10 to 15 to 20 years. So as a college or high school band director, you're always looking, what am I going to do when that trumpet section graduates next year?
Right, yeah.
You know, you're always thinking ahead. I have the good luck to have most of my principal players in place for a long time. So I'm always looking to get more people, but I really don't have to worry about replacing people as you do in a college or a high school, which makes your life a lot easier with programming
Right.
and recruitment. I mean, I do recruit, and unfortunately, sometimes you lose people for many different reasons. And sometimes you lose people because they got a better gig, and they're musicians and they can't come on Monday nights. So, particularly at Lehman, it's been wonderful doing that. And because so many people are with me at Lehman, that carries through to the Westchester Band, which is a paying gig for 35 people, 7 continuous weeks.
In the summer,
In
right.
the summertime. And that band really has anywhere from 65 to 80 people, depending on what is happening that year. I probably
We've had more even.
We've had up to 90-something.
Yeah.
You have to get into that band by audition.
Right.
I was
Okay.
just about to ask with the community bands that you're working with, the process of people joining the band or coming into the band. So with that band, you say it's a little more professional, and you have audition. What about the other band you were talking about? How do people?
The summer band.
Yeah. How do people get into that?
You have to audition.
You do have to audition that.
And now what happens, most of the people in it, or a large part, have been music educators. If somebody comes to me and said, I have my student, he made All-State, he's been studying with me for 5 years, you know me, I've played in the band for 20 years, he can play in the section, and he'll audition for you if you'd like him to, but if you don't have time, it's okay. And I will take people on recommendation. I make the auditions just so I get to know people sometimes.
Right.
9 times out of 10, people play well enough. You may not be the solo player.
Right.
You may not even play in the first section. But we do 12 new pieces every week. So we have one rehearsal on Monday,
Right.
and the concert on Thursday night. So what happens is, if you're a professional, you have to be there. If you're a community member, you have to be there.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're the second clarinet player in the New York Philharmonic, you have to be at that rehearsal.
Right.
So what happens sometimes is some other people have paid gigs on a Monday night, they miss that week.
Right.
Okay? And we're lucky we're funded by the city for 40 to 50% of the concerts, and the rest of them we get by people making donations, local businesses, people in the band, community members, and we haven't ever had a problem reaching our budget.
Right.
So it's a little bit of extra work, and this is the first full year I've been in charge of the administrative end of the band and the musical end of the band. Now, with a band of 60 people, putting the folders together every week with 12 new pieces is daunting. So you need a crackerjack librarian.
Right. Actually, we talk about that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
comes up. That's a commonality in
And-
all of these
all
bands.
the-
And that
and
librarian,
all bands,
you have to copy music because you're never going to have enough points. So also, where is the music going to be kept? Well, I keep a great part of it Lehman, but I have 14 file cabinets of music in my house in my garage.
Right.
So I can do some of them, picking of music, but when we get the library together for that concert, I really have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because the worst thing that happens is you're rehearsing and somebody looks for the music. I don't have this piece.
Right. Yeah.
Everything grinds to a halt.
Right. So what happens is
Yeah.
the librarian who gets my death stare look
Yeah.
at that moment runs over to the Carl knows that he was a librarian for what?
For a while, yeah.
Goes and
That death stare is no joke.
right.
You had a full set of hair. And
yeah, that's
it was
right,
all
yeah.
bad, just like
Darth Vader has nothing on my desk. So, yeah, that happens. And the other thing about the community band, which is incredibly time consuming, because it's paid, you have to go the tax route and the W-2
Right.
route. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that, I'm in the middle of that for the first time now, and that is incredibly
Complex and changing. Yeah, right.
yes, and you have to follow tax statutes too, which,
Well, let's avoid all of that and get back to the Lehman Band. What percentage are community, what percentage are college students right now?
college students probably around 10 to 15%.
Oh, okay,
On
so,
an,
yeah.
on an average.
Right, otherwise they wouldn't have an experience
Well,
playing in a concert band.
Undergrad and graduate.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we have quite a bit of graduate. We have a really robust graduate program, so we get those people to play too.
Right, and then they're featured along the way. And then for curriculum, like I know when I was a college band director, I made sure that every 4 years we rotated in whole suites, and certain pillars needed to be in the rotation.
Absolutely, and I was telling you before about this piece called "Come Sunday" by
Right.
Omar Thomas. It's an incredibly great piece, and I really think it's going to be a staple of the band literature. And it's only a rental. So it's expensive, but Karl agreed with me, and we're going to rent that piece, and we're going to do it next semester. It also helps that there's a big tenor solo that Karl's playing. in the first movement. It's a great piece. I think if you listen to it, you'll agree with me. So those are the things I do to try to keep people interested. People who have been in the band 15, 20 years, it's okay if you do, some of the best 20 band pieces, but I really have to go out there and find other pieces that keep everybody's interested. So with the advent of the internet, life is so much easier. I listen to music on a daily basis, and I'm not adverse to, getting people to send me music from other schools. Like, I know you had a great library at wherever you were, at Rhode Island or where else. If I suddenly needed a piece, I could email you. Do me a favor, I really want to borrow this. And people do that with me too. And there's a lending library in Massachusetts, the Chatfield Library, which is wonderful. So all those things play into keeping those people who play in the band for a long time happy. You don't want to pull out the whole second suite and have everybody go.
Not that again.
Yeah.
It's never the same. There's something about that. Anthony Mayala, we were talking about Tony. Every time he was doing he was doing the same piece again, he would buy a new score and start like it was a brand new score, and always find something else in it. There was always something new. So that always fascinated me, and I tried to model that. Like you said, you modeled some of the things about him too. Yeah, so the library side of it also.
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I've played under many different band directors, and Alan is the most committed to new music and trying new things. And sometimes we try something and it just doesn't really work.
Right.
We don't like it that much or whatever. But there's always something new. Every program there's something new that we haven't tried yet that is either newly published or it's new to the ensemble.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do that same sort of thing with the Jamestown Band, but by the same token, I don't feel guilty repeating things, because if you're going to see the Rolling Stones, you don't want to hear all their new stuff.
Yeah.
You want to hear, you're going to hear that, and Joel, if you go down to
Well, classics are classics for a
right,
reason.
exactly, but then mix in others and mix in some novelty with it and all of that. If you're doing 12 pieces a concert, that's a lot of literature.
Well, with
So
the college,
that's-
with the college band, we have 4 concerts, and I try to get people's opinion. Now, when you're dealing with your peers, whether they're music educators, professional musicians, or doctors and lawyers, teachers, nurses, whatever, they have opinions. So I try, and
Some more
because-
vocal than others.
I'll say something.
But you really have to listen to them, and a lot of times they'll make a valid point.
Right.
So is it worth the time learning all these notes? Yeah, but maybe not all the time.
Right.
So I'll listen. I'll think of how many rehearsals do we have? How much repetition will I have to do to get somebody or a section to learn something really technically difficult? So all those things go into running the community band.
And I mentioned networking earlier on a personal level, but it's also important for the band director to have a network of other band directors. As Alan just said, he could call up somebody and say, "Can I borrow this?" Or we need this one part from something that's missing, and we can get it that way. And Lehman has been a nucleus of that. We have had band directors retired band directors from the region give us their library in exchange for being able to borrow items from the entire library. And consequently, our band library is over 1,700 arrangements.
Titles, yeah.
Titles.
And all
which,
complete, yeah.
yeah, which I don't know if that's a lot, but it seems like a lot to me.
That's a lot.
It seems like a lot when I walk in and I see shelf after
You
shelf.
need a bigger garage.
Don't tell my wife that.
Yeah, no, but I need a bigger office. My office has, I acquired complete sets along the way, and now it's time. And I found there's a band, and one of my former clients in real estate, and was a member of the Jamestown band, helped them move to Hershey, and they have a band there, and they said, we don't have a library. Are there any pieces you could, so I'm emptying out, my wife is very happy about this, that, like we're going to empty out that, I'll digitize them just in case I need that someday, but odds are I'm never going to use them again, and they desperately need music and don't really have funding yet, so I just, it'll work really well.
You bring up something that's really interesting, as talking about oboes and computers, digitizing music, and even buying music, you can buy it in digital form.
Right.
I mean, there will come a time, hopefully in my lifetime, that I can digitize all the 1,700 tunes in our library, and when we need it, just print
Send
it
it
out.
to the park, send the part to the person.
Send the parts to the people, and print them out if we need them.
Well, the trees stay standing because it's on their pads, right? So they don't need that. What percentage of your musicians are using pads instead of electronic? Not many?
5%.
If
right.
that, yeah.
5%.
Yeah, same here.
But that's in the Lehman Community Band and other community bands.
In the summer band, it'd be too hard.
Too difficult to do that.
You don't have to worry about wind.
But in my
which is nice.
but in my 6-piece funk band, Jungle Love, that I'm gonna go to this evening, we all use just digital only.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the future, it's to be interesting.
Absolutely. So, doing the band in the park, there's a whole other facet of being in charge of it, and that's the setup.
Right.
You need a crew.
Equipment.
You need lighting. I mean, because it's going to get dark.
Oh, what time are your concerts?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah,
Yeah, 8
absolutely.
o'clock. So we have lighting, and that, that facilitated, well, is the electricity going to be able to handle enough for 80 people to see? So people do have clip-on lights and stuff. But then the other thing is, where's the percussion? And we need all the percussion. We use 2 or 3 mallet instruments a concert, and 4 timpani and a drum set and a bass drum and chimes and so on and so forth. You need a truck to move that stuff, even if the church is only across the parking lot. And that's another thing, if you're getting stuff and you have to move it moving it in a truck is easy if you're only going a couple of 100 yards. But if you're going from building to building, there's the expense of the truck and the truck driver.
Right.
it's something you really have to consider.
Right. No, absolutely.
So to make a band happen, you have the director who stands up on the podium and waves his arms, but in a lot of ways that's no, I'm not being flippant. In a lot of ways that's the least important. It's the most fun, I'm sure, but the least important in many ways.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Because you need a band manager and a crew and a librarian and a financial, coordinator or what have you.
We have in the band we both play in the romps, retired old men playing swing or musicians playing swing.
Yeah.
We happen to have a retired general plays in the trumpet section. And,
Does he give orders?
I'm sorry?
Does he give orders?
No, he doesn't do too much of that or anything like that. But he says
We haven't had to
in
do
the conversation,
push-ups for a
he says-
year.
Yeah, but he says it's always all about logistics. It's always logistics. It all comes down to,
preparation.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And
We
so
didn't talk about sound. You get
Right.
outside
Oh, yeah.
with 70 pieces.
And weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a sound system where we pay somebody, but they have to know what they're about. If it's going to sound like nothing you'd want to listen to without a sound system.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, you have different aged people with dealing with different experiences with playing outdoors. Like the kids that never wanted to play in marching band. All of a sudden, I had someone, one of our majors left because she said, I want to be a professional performer. I don't want any of this music ed stuff or whatever. And I never want to march a parade again. And I saw her like 10 years later. And it was at a parade. Because all the professional musicians were marching the parade to keep the money coming, to keep a cash flow going. But playing, I went to a Boston Symphony concert at Tanglewood, and a fog rolled in during a piece. And you could hear it almost going through the orchestra. Because as the atmospheric conditions change, oboe is crazy with that. Like probably even more sensitive than bassoon. My son played horn. And it's a different world. And for the people who never played outdoors, who fought that, they're in big trouble playing with those big organizations because you need to know how to adapt to play those different circumstances.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question. But that's one of the things you learn in a community band.
Yeah.
If the people have been there for, a decade or so, and you're a talented high school or college kid, even thinking about going into music ed, the person in the community band is going to say, if it's going to be really cold, you better keep that top joint under your armpit, or if you have a plastic instrument, play it so your oboe doesn't crack.
Right.
And by the way, your reeds are going to be different out here too.
Right.
Yeah. So you really learn a lot by sitting next to people who've done it in a lot of different ways, not only as a band person, but maybe as an educator. So when you talk about making contacts, there are a lot of people who play in our community band who find about other teaching jobs or other playing jobs just by cross-pollinating.
The networking.
And networking,
right?
yeah, absolutely. So that's a definite benefit of it. And
The apprenticeship is still alive and very well, kind of just like how you learn how to make oboes.
Absolutely.
You were an apprentice, and then the same thing with these bands sitting. Sometimes Dave was talking about a band he plays in Westerly. There were 3 generations right next to each other: the grandfather, the father, and the son.
We and the Lehman Community Band, college and community band, we like to think of it as a mentoring type of model, where you have let's just say a veteran musician and a more rookie musician sitting next to each other, and one can learn from the other. It can go both ways,
right? Huh?
And it, not just the examples that Alan gave, but in many ways.
Right.
Yeah,
that's great. So we usually ask some questions of our guests.
Right.
To wrap things up.
No, just kidding.
Right. So we'll give this a whirl and see how it goes. Some of them we've kind of answered already. Let me skip over one. But what's your most memorable experience with the community music ensemble? What was your most memorable? What jumps out at you right now in spontaneous world here?
It doesn't have to be positive, does it?
Well, there's
hundreds of them, thousands of them.
Well, as a musician, if I've played thousands of concerts, as a performer and a conductor, there's only a handful that you look back and say they were perfect.
Right.
We're nitpickers. So
most of our stories come from the ones that weren't perfect.
Right, the ones that I mean, one of the things I learned to be careful about, I was playing with the Westchester Pops Band at Kensico Dam, and we were playing in a showmobile.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we were rehearsing a couple of minutes before the concert, and the crew had forgotten to put the guards on the end of the showmobile.
Right.
So the guy playing tenor sax moved back, slipped off the stage. His Mark 6 cigar cutter tenor went flying through the air, and I can remember to this day, he fell down, needed stitches, his horn was trashed. But those are the things you have to think about. Now, that's not a positive thing, but it made me realize when I was a high school band director and a community band director, you really have to think about almost everything. Yeah, there were great performances that I had that were wonderful. I really can't put my finger on one.
Yeah,
Too many good ones.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, sometimes it's that. Here's a fun one. So a couple of summers ago, we were having an outdoor concert. And one of the hardest things you have to do as an outdoor band director is be a weatherman.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay? So being a boater, I learned how to use NOAA weather radio, the Coast Guard stuff, because I'd never wanted to take my family out. So we're pretty lucky, and most of the times we did not get rained on. Well, made a bad call a couple of years ago, and we had to stop the concert. But I knew that it was going to stop raining in 10 or 15 minutes. I was positive. And I was right. Everybody ran across the street to the post office, got back in their cars, and we came back, and we were doing selections from Annie.
Right.
So, and then instead of starting in the beginning, we started with the sun will come out tomorrow.
I remember that.
So that-
So did you end with "It's a Hard Knock Life" and then?
Yeah, exactly. It's a big oboe solo in it. So the that might have not been the most fun musically, but personally that felt good.
Those are
Yeah,
the
you got
typical
it.
kind of stories.
I
we get.
have one. So there are many highlights and some lowlights as well. But the Lehman College and community plays not only our 4 concerts a year, but we also play for the Lehman graduation ceremony, and we also have played for the CUNY Macaulay Honors College graduation ceremony, and which has changed locations, but at one point we were playing in David Geffen Hall.
Wow.
So we brought in the graduation folder host first suite,
Right.
and so just for us, the audience was coming in.
They played the whole thing.
Yeah, we played
All
the
right,
entire
cool, yeah.
the entire host one. I don't know how much band literature gets played in that hall,
Yeah.
but we played host one in the in the best one of the greatest halls in the country.
Right.
For,
Formerly known as
yeah,
Philharmonic Hall.
Philharmonic Hall, yeah. So that for me was not only a personal highlight, but a professional career highlight.
right. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Very good.
What was a big challenge with an ensemble, and how was it overcome? We kind of elicit answers to problems that way from folks. What was something you ran into that?
Well, somebody would ask a musical question that really didn't have an answer.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's a matter of taste and the way I was
Right,
doing
yeah.
it.
Why
And
do
I-
people play the oboe? Is that one of them?
No,
No, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Go right ahead.
Why are you guys always screwing around with your reeds?
Yeah.
With that, but actually, somebody asked a question, and it's inevitably a professional person or a doctor or a lawyer who is very concrete
Right.
and wants a concrete answer to why are you phrasing it this way?
Oh. okay.
Why are we doing this? And I give my best answer, and most other people are saying like, aren't you listening to what we're doing? And it's going over somebody's head. And this
Right.
person can probably play all the notes,
Yeah.
but is not really getting what we're all about all the time,
Yeah.
about that music.
They're searching for that. That's why they asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. To try to find, searching for that
So
aesthetic.
that's the hardest thing, is to try to get a point across that's to some people esoteric, but not really to musicians.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Right.
they can't put into words.
Right.
That's why you do that. What do you think, Carl? You run into problems along the way? Or?
Well, there are always problems, and often there are logistical problems. Yes, and I find that if you zoom out and think big picture, play the long game, we have had to repair our concert timpani and replace the heads and get work done on them. We had to buy a new conductor's music stand and a whole rack after rack of new chairs for the band to sit in. I mean, the old chairs were kind of rickety and whatever. So, and being a part of Lehman College, we have resources from the college which we can use from the music department, which we use over time. The band is not the only group that uses the chairs or uses the timpani or uses any equipment. But if you keep the big picture in mind, play the long game. Okay, we need this, and then we got the chairs. Now we need to get a few other
Instrument.
and now we have the timpanis that are repaired, and yes, we're using them in the band, but we're also using them with the chorus and orchestra, symphony orchestra, and also for the percussion pedagogy class. So you have to just sort of keep plugging away. Deal with an issue as it comes up, deal with equipment as you need it. So you try to be proactive when you can, but
As the IT guy here, which was your, I was expecting a digital answer,
Mm.
but now you're more the administrator, and you're thinking analog administrative kind of things. I see this
Somebody's gotta
transformation
think
that
before
way.
my very eyes.
Right.
David, last question was the future. Yeah.
Oh, well, what do you see as and it's always kind of hard to just figure it out, but what do you see as the future of community bands? Are they going to continue?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Karl and I worked together on both bands, and because of technology, we have a much bigger outlook and people looking at us on what we do, because we have stuff online. And people, we get another 10 people asking to join the band every year just from going on the internet and saying, hey, I played baritone horn in college, but I've been a lawyer for 10 years and I've been practicing and taking lessons. What do I do to get in the band? So we get a lot of people like that, and I'm always getting high school kids who are looking to really improve themselves.
That's the important part, the young folks.
Yes,
Because
and those people, I do make those people audition,
Right.
and they're usually loaded for bear when they come in, which is a good thing. So I think it's going to continue. Will it continue generations from now? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where we'll be with AI and stuff like that. But I think there's always going to be a place where people want to get together in a social setting and sit down and relax and listen to music, not necessarily on a concert hall, out in an outdoor situation where they can just eat a meal, bring their kids, bring their family. And the greatest thing about this summer band is we get a range of people literally from 1 year old to in their 90s.
Right.
And, everybody's out there having a great time. And one of the things I've learned to do is that the program is really clear. You have to program to what people want to hear, what the musicians want to do.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what's going on in the world with your audience. So I'm constantly listening to Broadway shows and pop music, and we have something called a mystery tune where I involve the audience in guessing what the tune is, and a local merchant will contribute. Baskin-Robbins contributed $750 gift cards last year, and you would be surprised how many people come to the concert to try to guess the darn mystery tune. Okay, when we're like, it is fun. It is
Well,
fun.
Can you give me a quick example? What it might be? A mystery tune.
Gone with the Wind.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, not done. Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Yep.
Okay, so a certain part of the audience gets Thriller like boom.
Yep. Right.
Okay, when everybody under the age of 30 is running up to put their card in, and we do some other ones. We did some Simon and Garfunkel ones.
Oh, okay. There you
Okay,
go.
so I and occasionally I pick one that's too hard. Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm picking the cards out of and maybe you'll have to edit this out. I'm picking the cards out of the basket. If I know nobody's going to get it after a while, I just pick somebody who I know is in the audience, and they automatically become the winner.
Oh, we're going to have to take that out.
Yeah.
That Baskin-Robbins card.
Right, but that rarely happens. Almost never. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes, we have a much broader range of musical taste, and we'll pick something that we think everybody knows,
Right.
but they don't.
And they don't. Yeah,
They
right.
don't.
It's kind of funny how that goes. That's
Yeah.
cool. Carl, what do you think? Future?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, everyone. That was great. That's-
No, regardless of what happens in terms of AI, and technology, other types of technology, people will always want to get together with other human beings, right? So I'm hopeful and optimistic about the future of community bands, especially when we have an institution like Lehman College that is, as I said earlier, the nucleus of so much of this world and this experience. My concern is the commitment to the arts across the country. And if there's a tendency toward less than things like community bands may and will suffer, I hope that there isn't a trend away from the arts. So I am optimistic, but with that one caveat.
Yeah, it's kind of like the arts have been in every civilization. So,
Yeah.
that makes me... And I thought that when VHS came out, that was the end of going to the movie theater. That was because everyone could just watch it at home on their couch. And yet, movie theaters are thriving and developing and adapting. Much more comfortable seats and everything else. So I think I'm encouraged by that, but I'm glad you're both on the upside of that.
I think technology has really increased the ability of people to learn from the arts. I think you, three of us, understands what it was when we were younger. You'd get a new vinyl record,
Yeah.
and you'd go back to your
I'm
house
old enough to
or-
remember vinyl records.
Yeah.
But you'd wear
Needle.
you'd wear the grooves out of that. And when you wanted to get music, you had to go to the library and see if some school library had it, or you had to purchase it by mail.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you carry around
Your phone. Yeah.
your life and your. I mean, I have a student now who is very talented. He was going to play the Strauss oboe concerto. So it's like, well, wonderful. I want you to go home and I want you to listen in the next 2 or 3 weeks, 3 or 4 recordings of it. I said, oh yeah. We had to go to Sam Goody or Record Hunter or wherever and buy those things. They're right here now for nothing. So I think that has raised the bar in terms of development of
I was thinking about that, searching for music. I used to go to Paleson's.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, down near Carnegie Hall. You know,
across the street on 56.
go through scores.
Right.
You know, look through scores or go to conferences. Well, this has been a wonderful discussion, guys.
Thank you very much.
We've
gentlemen.
covered a lot of
I've
material.
enjoyed it.
So
Yeah.
thank you very much for doing this. Thank you so much for setting this up at Lehman for us, Carl.
I'm glad we could do it,
It's
and,
wonderful.
and you know, I mean, thanks for inviting us to be guests on your show.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and we always
Nice
end the
to
show
meet
the
you.
same way
Yeah.
by saying, just keep on playing.